Good evening. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Legal Affairs Committee. We've got one item on, in attendance are Councilors McGinn, Peach, Rossignol, and Turco, as well as other councilors, Councilors Gould, Councilors Manning-Martin, Councilor Welton, Councilor Gamache, and Councilor Daigle, as well as City Council President Ryan Melville. We have one item on the agenda this evening, and it's the purchase and sale agreement for property located at 156 Rear Bartholomew Street. We're joined this evening by His Honor the Mayor, as well as Kurt Bellevant. So I'll now turn it over to Mayor Betancourt. Mayor Betancourt, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Council. Hope everybody's doing well. I think you're pretty familiar with this property, 156 Rear Bartholomew Street. I know that there was an earlier vote to approve funding that the Community Preservation Commission had previously approved for this project. This is just an effort to purchase some open space off of Bartholomew Street, about 4 acres. You saw the value, the assessed value is $40,000. And we just thought it was a good opportunity to add to our open space and keep it a wooded area, make sure that no development that we wouldn't agree with would go in there. So just wanted to bring that forward to get the approval to authorize me to sign the purchase and sale agreement. And we'd be able to, I think, move pretty quickly now that we have the funding in place in order to effectuate and finish the sale. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Mr. Bellevance is here as well. But this was a great opportunity to just purchase some open space that runs already with open space in that area.
Thank you, Mayor Betancourt. I just wanted to, for committee members as well as other councils in the general public, Mayor Betancourt mentioned it, but this was approved by the Community Preservation Committee, and the City Council approved the funding of this back in November of 2001. So, as the Mayor pointed out, this is just a final buttoning up of authorizing the Mayor to sign this purchase and sale on behalf of the city to purchase the land. At this time, I'll open up to the committee. Or any questions or comments at this time? Other councilors, Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say, as the Ward 1 councilor, I'm okay with this. I'm in favor of it, and just wanted to go on record saying that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Any other councilors, comments, or issues? Seeing no one, I guess at this point in time, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to enter into a purchase and sale agreement for the property 156 Rear Bartholomew Street.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. You've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Rossignol.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you all. That's the only item. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
On the motion, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. We are now adjourned. Thank you.
We're going to get started in 3 minutes. Good evening. The City Council will convene on Thursday, June 23rd, to hold a regular meeting at 7:30 p.m. for the purpose of discussing any and all business via in-person and remote participation in accordance with Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws and Sections 20A, B, and C of the Acts of 2021 signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16, 2021. Alternative public access to this meeting shall be provided in the following manner. 1, this meeting is being televised by the Peabody Access Television on cable Channel 9. 2, real-time public comment during the public hearing can be addressed to the Peabody City Council using the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. Users may view the meeting and make comment or question to the chair via the audio option. Please visit www.peabody-ma.gov for Zoom information. This meeting is being taped by Peabody Access Television and is also being recorded by the City Council stenographer. Please rise for a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here's the motion from Councilor Gould to approve the record. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Our first item on the agenda is the mayor's veto message regarding motion P331-22 from May 12, 2022. Under suspension of the rules, I'd accept a motion to accept items 10B for this particular meeting.
So moved.
Here the motion from Councilor Gamache. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. So again, we're dealing just with P331-22. Mr. Mayor, I'm going to give you a few minutes if you'd like to discuss your veto.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, councilors. I hope everybody's doing well. I did want to make a few comments. You have my letter. You certainly have my reasons as to why that I thought it was the right decision to veto the motion. But I do understand the spirit of this motion. I was on the City Council for 8 years. This exact matter came up when I was on the council. It was my first term. There were a number of councilors that were upset with a couple of the decisions and a couple of legal opinions that came down from, at the time, the city solicitor was Larry O'Keefe. And I remember that there was much discussion and debate about this very same motion. And I was told that this same thing happened in the 1990s as well, again, with just some disagreements in terms of legal opinions that were made. And I understand why that would be something that's attractive, but I do think that there are a number of reasons why I felt that it needed to be vetoed. I'm not going to rehash and get in deep, certainly hope available to answer any questions, but really I do believe that this would significantly jeopardize our legal defenses, our legal positions on current litigation and future litigation if we were to have an executive city solicitor and a legislative city solicitor. I think that I can't imagine or envision a scenario if those two attorneys disagreed and we went into litigation with that type of effort or that type of disagreement going into litigation. We must, and I think it's critical to go in with a unified voice on all litigation. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars that are at stake, that are on the line, and to go in without a unified voice would be a significant concern and what I would really think jeopardize and do a disservice to our city. We have 3 city solicitors that have over combined 80 years of experience, all honorable people. They do not take an oath to me or to any city position. They take an oath to the city, to represent the city in terms of what they think is their analysis and interpretation of the law. I disagree a number of times. In fact, today I had a disagreement. It would certainly make my life in some ways politically more, it would be easier politically. But there are decisions that are made that I don't agree with, that I wish we could go another way. But their job, the city solicitor, their job is to do what they think is best for the city in terms of their analysis and interpretation of the law. I also have real concerns, and you have the legal case. This was brought forward against Mayor Tom Menino, the city of Boston. You have that case in front of you. I do not think that the City Council has that ability to do that. In fact, I cannot, there's not one city that I know, and we've had discussions on this, where they have a city solicitor that reports and is under the guise of the City Council. I also have financial concerns in terms of adding another position on this year's budget. I worked very hard not to bring forward additional positions, considering where we are with the budget. And to bring on another salary with benefits and retirement obligations, I don't think is appropriate. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I can dig much deeper if you'd like. I understand the spirit of it. I just do not think it's the correct way to go, and I felt there were a number of reasons why this deserved a veto. And it's not something I take lightly. I've only had 2 vetoes in 11 years, but I felt that this was the right decision for the city.
Thank you, Mayor. Before we get started, and I'll open it up to the council, I had discussed this with the clerk this week, that to override this veto would require 8 votes to say yes to overriding it. So the threshold is 8. So just so we're all aware of that, it's an eight vote threshold to override the veto. Any councilors? Councilor Turco first, then Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor. I believe everybody here knows the intention of the first motion was to act as a placeholder in the event that you did support legal representation for the council. There was no real discussion as to how that would transpire, whether that would be, matter of fact, you know, admittedly, the $52,000 number was just an arbitrary $1,000 a week number. Essentially, that's what it was a placeholder, since you were in the midst of budgets. Now, the reason why, I mean, obviously, you know this, you already mentioned it, the reason why the motion was brought forward, there have been circumstances throughout my time in the council, I'm sure yours also, where the council wasn't quite sure if that was the right decision or the right opinion given to them. You know, more recently, I have a request and our city solicitors are great. This was no offense toward them, but I do have a request toward the city solicitor for in legal affairs for a motion for, what was that, Saliba motion, was it? Yeah. Workplace ordinance, workplace training ordinance that I'm waiting for. And sometimes to expedite things for us, and even in the sense of Councilor Welton was looking at a change in an ordinance. We're not attorneys, and sometimes it's not a matter of coming up with a different opinion than a solicitor. I understand that it's a very difficult situation to put the city in, but to help us write ordinances, to help us with certain cases. We just had a very contentious special permit that was appealed. To have direct access to somebody that could help us and be there to help us craft decisions in legalese. That was the purpose of this. That's why the second motion, which I guess we're not discussing tonight, was to put that discussion in subcommittee and come up with, as Councilor Melville had mentioned, a proper rules and regulations around such a position. So, I see, you referenced the Menino versus City of Boston case. I don't know, Mayor, honestly. Their charter was written hundreds of years before ours. It's based on their charter, not ours. So I don't even know if it's relevant to ours. I do know that you're correct. There are no cities and towns around us that do have attorneys that work for them, but there are many that have outside legal counsel, including Beverly, including Lynn right now, and New Bedford actually just hired outside legal counsel on an hourly basis, as was mentioned. So that was the purpose and the intent behind it, was to have this discussion and how to help us best represent our constituency, how to expedite information to this council. There are times when we're looking for either a supporting opinion or reasoning behind things, and we don't have the direct access that you may have as mayor to the attorneys. So with that said, you have, obviously I don't need to tell anybody here, we don't have the right to spend money. So the override, the veto would likely stand. I understand that. I'll support the override of the veto, of sustaining the veto. But I do think that on the second veto, which will come up on the 16th, this council should have a discussion. If it can't be a full-time position, we should have a discussion about some legal representation directly for the council. And if, that involves us working as a team, including the executive branch, to craft it so there are no contradictory opinions, and we limit the scope of what we can ask of that outside counsel, whether it be crafting ordinances, opinions on special permits, issues like those, I would be okay with that. But I think the discussion needs to be had. And again, that's for the second veto. But on this one, yes, it was an arbitrary number. Yes, it was just to act as a placeholder. And, if the council wishes to sustain the veto, I would support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jerko. Did you want to say something, Mr.
No, there were very fair points made. I disagreed with some of it. Certainly, the city solicitors are available to the City Council. Council President Melville reached out to me to work with me to come up with a plan for the charter review. We discussed and had one of the city solicitors, Brian Barrett, who comes to the meeting and is working specifically with the City Council for that task. Very much open to that. I certainly have never blocked a city solicitor that I'm aware of to come to a meeting to discuss a legal issue. You need to have that access. I admit they are slow at times. There's no question about that. But certainly any time a city solicitor is available, or that you would need him to be available for legal opinion, absolutely. It's always hard for an attorney to come in and to be able to answer questions on the fly. Oftentimes, they need to do legal research and get back to you. So it's hard sometimes in the moment to be able to structure a legal opinion. That makes sense. But in terms of access to an attorney, one of the city solicitors, happy to work with you on that. We have a number of attorneys that work for the city as well that work on a per diem hourly basis. We have one right now with the zoning board because there's some specific issues that need a certain level of expertise. And that's what we do. There's a line item in the budget that allows the city solicitor's office to do that. On the school side, we have a number of people that we reach out to regarding special education, transportation, Title IX, that are specific issues. And we work with them to make sure that they have that expertise that they need. So I'm open to working with you. I just do not think that we can have a situation where we have one attorney working for the city council and then another attorney working for the mayor's office. To me, it's three city attorneys that work for the city. And again, I just think we need to speak in a unified voice. And we're always going to have a disagreements. That's why there's so much litigation in our country. There's always going to be differing opinions as to legal issues and fact scenarios. That's where attorneys make big money, and that's why our court system is so busy. Attorneys going to come up with different opinions all the time on different issues. So, but in terms of having split opinions, I think it would be disastrous for the city of Peabody. And that's why no other city or town has it.
Thank you. Councilor Manning Martin, then Councilor Gould, and Councilor Gamache.
I'm going to defer to Councilor Turco because I believe he wants to respond.
Yep, Councilor Turco.
I just wanted to correct me. Cities, I could not find any cities that have it, but many towns have them for their town select boards. They do have separate attorneys, but not for cities. Thank you.
I agree with that.
Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur and agree with everything that Councilor Turco has said, and we've had in the forms of motions requesting information and opinions from the city solicitor that just we don't get a response, period. I have two outstanding right now myself. One was in an effort to get, and it was done under an emergency preamble, and that wasn't even responded to by the city solicitor when we requested information in order to help us do our job. As very eloquently stated by Councilor Turco, that's all we're trying to do here is to get information so that we can be better at our job, and which is to represent our constituents in the best way that we can. So when we're asking for assistance to do that, it is disheartening that, we've been vetoed. I'm going to vote to sustain the veto, but the request has been denied. But it's also disheartening when you can't even get information going through the proper channels using the entire board, 11-to-1 votes, to request information from these city solicitors that are supposed to be available. You're saying that they're available to us, and I'm not finding that's the case. And just to give an example, one was an emergency preamble to get the Conservation Commission information to prepare for a very important meeting that they had, and it was an open meeting law question of having a public meeting, public hearing on a private land. And we never got an answer. And again, never got a response, didn't get any help. That's the thing, is when we need help, we ask for help, we should get the help. Never got a response. That was several months ago. And also along those same lines, this board, 11-0, asked for a request for an opinion from the city solicitor about, and I forget what chapter it is, is it 61, chapter 61B, the tax exempt status from the Salem Country Club, asking if they had violated it, given the actions that they had taken that the Conservation Commission has been working on for so long with the cutting down of several hundred trees. And that request was made several months ago too, and there was no response to that either. So if, Mayor, you could, get the city solicitor's office, if there are 3 of them, they're all on the books, they're getting paid, if they can respond to us and give us the help we need when we ask for it, that's all that the council is asking for, and that's what we deserve in order to better represent our constituents. So that's what we're requesting, Mayor. But I will also vote to support sustaining the veto. Thank you.
To that, I find it very disheartening that those type of comments would be made as well. These city solicitors work extremely hard for our community. There's countless motions, and a number of councilors reach out on a very frequent basis for information. I will check on that. Those Salem Country Club, those motions were just made during the spring. They weren't made several months ago, so I'll have to check on the timing of those. But to criticize publicly that is, it's kind of disheartening that we have to go to that level. I have never, and I have ever denied when there's been a request for a city solicitor to come to a meeting. That has never happened. So if you want a city solicitor to come to a meeting to discuss an issue, make a motion through the regular procedures, and we'll make sure he's there. But to criticize the person in that way without, that's disheartening to me, Councilor. We're all trying to do our jobs. They have an extremely difficult job as well. A lot of information, things are coming at them. Right now, we're dealing with 15 city unions in negotiations. We're dealing with the budget work that was just done, and a number of other litigation cases. Some lawsuits that were filed, I think, incorrectly and that have hurt the city regarding housing that has been proposed, and votes that were made by the city council that we've been working on, and we've been winning those cases. So, yep, they might be slow on a couple of things without question, and I think that will be brought back to the city solicitors. But to openly criticize them in that way and say that they're not responding to you is just plain ridiculous, quite frankly.
Councilor Manning Martin, then we're going to move on to
Mayor,
Councilor
it's
Gould.
amazing we're here supporting to sustain your veto, and you're criticizing me and saying that I can't criticize when I'm not criticizing. I'm stating facts. Those are facts that I presented. You're criticizing me, telling me not to criticize your staff when we're here voting to sustain your veto, asking you to help us be better councilors and a better board. And you're the one criticizing. You're criticizing me. Look in the mirror, Mayor. Thank you. I have nothing else to say other than, Mayor, I'm here to support your veto.
Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mayor, for being here. I just want to say that I'll be sustaining the veto. I think it all comes down to communication. I did vote for the motion when it first came before us, and I think it's a case like everything in life. It's all about communication, and you made a point to say that if we do need somebody, reach out to yourself, and you'll provide that. We'll do that in the future, I'm sure. So I will be sustaining the veto. Thank you.
Councilor Gamache.
Yes, thank you. I was present in the 90s when we took that vote, and it was primarily brought up because, and I'll admit, I didn't like some of the opinions of the city solicitor, but I couldn't support adding another, a private or a separate attorney for the city council. It's, back then it was based on opinions. Today it's based upon frustration that we're not getting what we're looking for. And I think that's the biggest issue right now, is the frustration issue, and that's the reason why we're here. I'm going to uphold your veto. I think, I didn't vote for the motion, but as you admitted to through you to His Honor the Mayor, we have we've got your attention, and you will hopefully make sure that any motion that is passed by the City Council for a legal opinion be brought to us in a quicker response so that we have the information and we're knowledgeable enough to make a decision. Again, this is out of frustration. Years ago, it was out of opinions because I'm not a lawyer. I mean, I can ask a question and I might not like the opinion, but I have to live by it. You people, the lawyers and the solicitors, are the experts. So I would only hope that out of this entire veto response that we do have quicker responses from our legal department, and we can move forward and be knowledgeable and do what we have to do to represent the citizens of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Based off of what I'm hearing, okay, Councilor Welton and Councilor McGinn, but I just want to and Councilor O'Neill, so we'll go right down. But everybody, just to understand, if to sustain the veto would be a yes vote, that would kill the motion. So I hear sustain a lot. I just want to make sure everybody understands what that means. So Councilor Welton, then Councilor McGinn, and Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President, and certainly not to belabor the point, and certainly not to criticize anyone's actions or ability to follow up or provide proper legal guidance. I just want to sort of underscore, I think what's been said a number of times, that if there's a better way to work with the city solicitors, we're open to having that, or at least I'm open to having that suggestion brought to us. In my particular circumstance, there's been a few pretty big special permits that I just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. So maybe my check-in with the city solicitors would be very specific and not too time-consuming, but I fully understand and appreciate that that's against the backdrop of them working on union negotiations and larger issues with the city. So perhaps if there's an opportunity to maybe discuss in our Legal Affairs Committee how best to elevate certain special permit issues, or how best to work with the city solicitor's office to get the information we need and the support we need, I think that would be a good place to start from. And that gets us away from the criticisms or the finger pointing or whatever. I think we're all in a position where we want to do what's best for the city, and I think if there's any guidance that either your office can provide or the city solicitors can provide for us to achieve that, I think that's what we're hoping to do. So I also will vote. Actually, I have a question structurally since I was absent for the first vote. Do I have a vote this evening? I
anticipated that question. I had asked the clerk, and yes, you can vote on this veto.
Okay, so in that case, I also would vote to sustain, but I think if there can be some suggestion and proactive outreach with the city solicitor's office, I think that might help to put us in a better place. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. This question is to you, Mr. President. It's just administratively. We're dealing only with P33122 because there was a correction to the record, and so they're now separated because there was a separate veto message. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. And people have brought up good points. As this is the first veto since I've been on the council, I just wanted to mention a couple things, at least from my perspective, is I will vote to sustain the veto. I voted against the motion in the original meeting. I gave my reasons that night, and that I felt it would be difficult to have a legal position in the lawsuit and possibly have conflict between the city council's attorney representation and the city solicitor. So I thought, where we all work for the city and represent the taxpayers, I just thought it could be very difficult. But I am a firm believer in the separation of the executive branch and the city council. So normally I would say, well, no, I think we should do that. But as I said, I didn't agree with the original motion. But I do want to be clear. I agree that most of the council's comments, and that, at least personally, I've never had issues with getting a response in my time as city council president or as a council, getting responses when I've asked it from any of the city solicitors or the staff. That's just my own personal experience. But I'm encouraged where we possibly have a legal affairs committee meeting or wherever it should go to have, maybe work on framework, as others have said, about, want to make sure we have workloads, we don't start overburdening our city solicitors and staff on items that I think are important but may not be. So anyways, I just wanted to make those comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Any other councilors? Any other councilors? Just my comment, based on what I've heard tonight from the entire council and the mayor, I think there's a solution to all of the various problems that we've heard. I think some of them are very valid. You know, a procedure and policy in place that we would all understand and how we would initiate that so that we could get a timely response, I think is very much possible. And so that would be my view. But I do support sustaining that particular veto. I didn't support it originally that night. But I would entertain at this point a motion to sustain the veto, which would be a yes vote to sustain.
So moved,
Turco.
Mr. Chairman.
You heard the motion from Councilor Turco. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
I think she stepped away.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0, 1 absent.
Thank you, Council.
Veto was sustained. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to item 4A, which was a recessed zoning amendment. I'd ask that the applicant please step forward and give us a brief summary of what you're trying to do. We've already opened this up, so it was a recessed public hearing from June 9th.
For the record, my name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney at 40 Lowell Street, Peabody, and I appear on behalf of Ralph Caruso and requesting a zone change. That language has been before the planning board, and they have recommended approval. However, they have further recommended that certain terms be defined. The two terms they wanted defined were food processing and wholesale. I endeavored to meet with Ralph, I'm sorry, showing my age. I met with Al Tallarico and with Kurt Bellavance, and we searched through other local zoning ordinances to see if somebody else had already defined, and it turned out that that was not the case. And so we turned to the dictionary and kind of hybrided some zoning language with pure dictionary definition and came up with food processing and wholesale in the form that I think you have in your packets, which are both defined, and I think Mr. Bellavance is here to answer any questions that you may have, and I'm happy to answer questions as well.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor? Anybody wishing in the audience to speak in favor? Anybody on Zoom? Nobody on Zoom, right? Nobody on Zoom for this hearing. Anybody wishing in the audience wish to speak against? Anybody wish to speak against? And there's nobody on Zoom to speak against. Councilor Gamache.
I was just going to make a motion under suspension of
Councilor
rules
Roswell.
to receive item 8D and refer to this hearing.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Gamache.
Yes, thank you. This has been in committee, and we have now got the proper language that I think is sufficient in order for us to move forward with this. I got a question through the chair to Mr. Bellavance, if I may. Yes, Mr. Bellavance, thank you. The proposal is a use that is now going to be allowed in the industrial 4-point schedule of use regulations. What other zone, is it the DDD that allows this by right? And I hate to blindside you with this, but there's two other zones. I want to say the DDD is one of them.
I believe that
IL and IP.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
And that is something that I wanted to bring out because there's been questions concerning whether, you know, this is a separate entity moving forward to try to change the zoning, and quite honestly, it's a use that if you can get, especially in the front parcel of that property that we're talking about, would be a great improvement as to what we have. Now, Kurt, are you comfortable with the 50,000 square foot unless as a allowed by right use?
Yes, typically if you want to have more control on it, you would put language in there like that that would limit the size, so, which is what, in this case, we have done, so, working with Attorney Kelty.
Okay, so your office and the building inspector's office is okay with the new language that we have, and you have no problems with this as we move forward?
Correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions right now. If any of the councilors have any questions, I'd...
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Any other councilors? Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is pretty straightforward. I understand we're doing a zoning change. My only concern is that this particular, the entity that's requesting this certainly is located on the parcel close to the land at 128 Newbury Street, where there is right now an active 40B application before the city for at least it hasn't been amended or revised, but it was over 200 units. So that would be possibly the reason why the zoning was done was obviously to try to keep residences away from food processing, smells, or whatnot. So it concerns me that I would love to see where this is just one applicant ultimately looking for this, that I would rather see this be by special permit so that we could actually have questions about this particular business, trucking, whatever, that might affect possibly in the future the residents there. I just feel like it's just something I'd like to see, but certainly it's the will of the council. I may make a motion to make an amendment, but I just wanted to make that comment. I'm concerned about potential future use in the back area of that might be affected by this particular applicant looking at the food processing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Any other councilors? Councilor Gamache.
And on this, and I welcome Councilor O'Neill's input on this, but the special permit process just convolutes a lot more boards and everything else that has to go through the process to get to the city council. And I know that we had, that there's been talk about looking at our special permit processes concerning which way we go. The city of Peabody, in my mind, is not user-friendly the way we're set up in the special permit process. That's my opinion. You have to go through X amount of boards, and if you have to go through Concom, you're spending $50,000 or $100,000 before you get to the city council for approval. So, and I'm just throwing that out there right now, but as far as this is concerned, I think that I'm going to make the straight motion and allow the council, if there's an amendment, to vote the amendment. So, if I may make that motion.
We have Councilor McGinn would like to comment as well.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through to Attorney Kelty. Attorney Kelty, I think in your comments you mentioned you kind of looked up these terms. The wholesale term, there's a word in there, jobbers. Was that in the dictionary? You looked that up? So that was in somebody else's?
Yeah, that actually,
that was in some
that
other
actually
zoning
comes
language?
out of the dictionary.
And does that term have general meaning to you, jobbers? I mean, I know what it is, but I mean, legally, do you think the term jobbers has generally understood meaning?
Well, I think it becomes a little more self-defined when you look at it in the context where it says rather than to consumers as retail.
Yeah,
so it's
I understand when
distinction.
it goes on to explain what it's not, but, you know, the term jobbers alone, it just struck me as a little jargony to be included in a definition, but you say you saw it somewhere in other...
Yeah, I saw it in the dictionary.
In the dictionary. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. And Mr. Bellavance, you concur with that, obviously? You concur with the use of the word jobbers in this context?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other councilors? Any other councilors? I just had a question for Mr. Bellavance. This use, is this allowed by right? And what other zoning districts is this allowed by right?
I don't think we define it by size, so it would be allowed, as we mentioned before, IL and IP. I'm not sure if it's allowed by right or special permit.
Okay.
But I don't know if
It's by right. I think it's by right. I'm just confirming what I thought. So it is by right in those other districts, correct?
Correct.
All right. Thank you. Councilor McGinn.
Yeah, Mr. President, point of information. I brought this up when this was last before us. I think this ends up being a new line in the use table. So if this is successful through, you to the clerk, this doesn't belong on the same line as the existing food processing line, because the existing food processing line doesn't have this restriction on size. So it would be unique in that regard. We would effectively be adding a new line to the use table.
But
But as far as the existing food processing without the size restriction, it's IL, IP, and DDD, and by special permit in the GB.
But where I was going with that, Counselor, was we actually are by right for any size, but we're going to have a special permit for a smaller size, is kind of where I'm going with that. So, and I just wanted to get confirmation on that. So, any other counselors? Seeing none, Counselor Gamache.
Yes, at this time, I would move approval on the zoning ordinance 2011 amended and hereby further amended as follows. Section 1 by amending Section 4.2.6 industrial under Schedule of Use Regulations by adding a matter of by right food processing wholesale, provided all work, including storage, is carried on inside the building that does not exceed 50,000 square feet in the BR1 zoning district. Section 2, all ordinance or parts of ordinance inconsistent herewith be repealed. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law, and with that caveat to include the definitions that were approved upon or agreed upon by the city's community development and the petitioner. So moved.
You heard the motion from Counselor Gamache. Any discussion? Counselor O'Neill, did you want to make a... No.
On the motion, I just would want to comment that I understand what everyone's saying about that, but once again, this particular request is coming from one applicant. So I would make, on this motion, I would look to amend the actual motion to read, as Counselor Gamache read, strike the words "as a matter of right" and put "subject to special permit." So moved.
We have an amendment on the floor for this motion. Any discussion on the amendment to the motion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Councilors Gould,
No.
Rossignol,
No.
Manning Martin,
No.
Peach,
No.
Welton,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Gamache,
No.
Turco,
Yes.
Daigle,
No.
Melville.
No.
Motion fails.
All right, so we still have the motion on the floor by Counselor Gamache. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Rossignol,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Peach,
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
O'Neill,
No.
McGinn,
Yes.
Gamache,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Daigle,
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-1.
Thank you, councilors, very
Thank
much.
you. We're going to be moving on to item 4B, zoning amendment. The clerk will read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, June 23rd, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom, in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 40A, Section 5 of the Massachusetts General Laws, to consider amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody as follows. Section 1, that the zoning map of the City of Peabody entitled City of Peabody Zoning Map, adopted April 28, 2011, as amended, is hereby further amended as follows. To include within the Mill Overlay District the following location: Assessor's Map 53, Parcel 87, and numbered 58 Pulaski Street. Section 2, all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.pbd-ma.gov under Calendar on the homepage, or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Before we move on to the item, Counselor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the minutes, I am an employee at the Mills 58 property for which this applies, so I am going to recuse myself and step out of the room. Thank you.
Kurt, would the community development come up? Is this, are you speaking on behalf of this? Or, okay, please come up, state your name and, for the record, and let us know what's going on.
Okay. Good evening, Kurt Bellavance, Director of Community Development and Planning. About 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago now, we presented before the City Council a new concept, a mill overlay district, basically a idea that would basically be placed in areas where we have old mill buildings that may have such uses as industrial, things like that, that we wanted to add additional uses. And so what we did was we put together a overlay, which basically means the current uses under the underlying zoning, which is industrial, would still be allowed, but also you'd add these additional uses as part of the overlay to create a different type of concept in regards to the property. I had started out with identifying several properties throughout the city, working with the City Council. We identified the language, and the City Council adopted language in regards to the mill overlay. And then we proceeded to choose one location to basically test the waters and see how that would work in regards to this new zoning language. That property was parcel 53/47, which is known as 58 Pulaski Street, currently now called Mills 58. I'm sure many of the city councils, if not all of you, have been to that property. You've seen the changes in that property based on this language that the City Council adopted. The owner of the property had met with me and talked about expanding that overlay district to include adjacent property and another old mill building. They're looking to take some of the same uses that are inside that building and have them placed in this other building adjacent to that. So we, as my original idea and thought was to create a district that encompassed several buildings. I thought this was a good idea, working with the property owner. The language itself, the mill overlay district, is not changing. The language remains the same. It's basically, the request is to expand on the zoning map to include that overlay district onto another parcel. The owner of that property is here this evening, but we're here to answer any questions that you may have in regards to that. Thank you.
Thank you, councilors. Just real quick, the clerk has some information just regarding this, based on waiting on some planning board information.
Right, so tonight, at the end of this hearing, we're just going to recess it because we haven't received a planning board recommendation, but we needed to schedule the meeting within the 65 days, so that's why we are here tonight, and you will just reconvene on the 14th. Thank you.
Thank you, and also to get some feedback from the council between now and that next meeting. Any councilors? Councilor Peach?
Thank you, Mr. President. I am in full support of the zoning change. We've all been, I believe everyone's been down to the mills. This is that building D that's off to the left when you enter the property. This is, I think the owner's done a great job with building up that community down there, really transforming the entire area in front of that Pulaski Street property. So I'm obviously open to hear the council's opinion, but I will be supporting the zoning change.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Turco, then Councilor Rosendahl, and Councilor Gamache.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm also in favor of this. I actually think it was pretty good foresight from Mr. Greeley to prepare to move some of his, I'll call them clients, to a new location. So I would support this. I have just one question for Mr. Bellavance. On the map, which is, there's no page number on it, but it says mill overlay proposed expansion to map lot 0053087. In the outline of the lot, it includes the front portion of a different building, and that's the only thing. I realize that you've dictated in the specific parcel number, but any reason why the parcel number also includes a portion of another building that's on a separate parcel number?
Mr. Bellavance?
Yeah, I'm not sure, since this is pulled off the assessor's database, I'm not sure how correct that information is in regards to surveying. So the district we're looking for is the actual property, or the actual parcel number. And something would have to actually see if a survey was done to see if that actual front of the building was included in that district, or it's just because of the way the assessor's map overlays, it just shows as being in that property. So it may be something that the property owner could answer if they know if there's if that property's infringing on their lot.
Thank you. I'm okay with that. I just wanted to make it part of the record that we do not want to change any of the zoning at lot 051-084, excuse me, to have that noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, am in favor of this amendment, change and increase of the Mill Overlay District. Way back before we were even entertaining the Mill Overlay District, Mr. Bellavance and I, we took a ride to Lawrence, and this is just a continuation of what I think could be an amazing adventure. So I am 100% in favor of this proposed change. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other councilors? Councilor Gamache, good? Yes. Councilor McGinn.
Yeah, just to you, Mr. President, since this is a public hearing, do you want to ask for comments?
Thank you, Councilor. I appreciate that. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody wish to speak in opposition? Yep. Please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please. And thank you, Councilor McGinn.
My name is Michael Tucker. I'm an attorney at McLean Holloway, and I represent one of the abutters, Wayside. I understood that the matter was going to be recessed and that we were waiting for a planning board comment, and it seems appropriate to hold my comments in the main until that planning board information is in. It's difficult for us to assess exactly what it is that is being proposed without the information from the planning board. But Wayside is an abutter, a direct abutter to the mill overlay. It seems that we have a concern that what's really being engaged in is perhaps spot zoning. There's some case law that's very specific about establishing a zone for a single landowner. It seems even more clear when that zone is expanded to include another parcel that's owned by the same landowner. So with that, I would reserve the right to be heard at the next meeting when the planning board has had an opportunity to weigh in. I think there's probably some more information that's going to be necessary.
Thank you. And yes, we'll be available for public comment at that when that next meeting comes up, so you would have the opportunity. Anybody else in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none. Any other councilors with any comments? Seeing none, I'd take a motion to recess this public hearing.
So moved, Mr. President.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach. All in favor? Any opposed? We are recessed on this particular public hearing. Thank you. We're going to move on to item 4C, a special permit, and the clerk will read the public notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, June 23rd, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from Ron Boyd, 2 Harvard Street, Peabody, Mass., for a special permit requesting to operate an automotive repair service facility specializing in motorcycle repair and sales in a GBD zoning district at 27 Howley Street, Peabody, Mass. Is filed in accordance with sections 1.5.1, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Can you just state your name and address for the record and a summary of what you'd like to do?
I'm applying for a special permit to move my motorcycles business from 25 Walnut down to the building that I just purchased on 29 Howley Street. So I already have a special permit in place. I've been under the use since 2013, and nothing's going to change. I just bought the building. I want to just relocate my motorcycle business down to there.
And can you just give us your name and address for the record?
Ron Boyd, 2 Harvard Street, Peabody, Mass.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor of this applicant? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience, anybody on Zoom wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Is there anybody on Zoom for opposition? We're not seeing none. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Boyd at his current location on Walnut Street and learn a little bit about his business. His shop on Walnut Street is like the cleanest mechanic type shop I've ever been in my life. He's looking to move his business into 27 Howley Street, which for the purpose of this has been split into 27 and 29. As many of you know, that was Peabody Glass for many years, so it's nice to see the building being used. I think the operation that's going in there is a cleaner operation that's been there for the last several decades. Mr. Boyd services the community. This is a service you can't really find around here, and he does also service our PPD motorcycles, so we thank him for that. There, in your packet, there were some outstanding tax bills. Those have been paid. There was just a miscommunication based on the timing of the closing of the property. These bills were never mailed to Mr. Boyd, so that's all set. There are some conditions from the Conservation Commission that I will be including. All of these have been discussed with Mr. Boyd, and they are things he currently does under his existing special permit on Walnut Street, so I'll open it up to the council.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Gould, Councilor Roslin, and Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be very brief. I just want to extend my support to Mr. Boyd. I've been in his shop, and as Councilor Peach said, it is a spotless operation. He also responded to an incident back 5 or 6 years ago when we had some motorcycles going up and down Walnut Street at an extensive speed. He assured us that it was not his customers, and he responded immediately. And now that Peabody Glass, the seat cover company, has vacated that building, you should see for anybody that hasn't been down there, you should see the building. It is an impeccable paint job. It's ready to go, and I wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Rossignol?
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, am in favor of this. The only question I have is, well, actually, I'll hold off my question because it's going to be part of the next hearing. But I've had my bike serviced with you. You do an amazing job, and I look forward to seeing you at your next location.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McGinn, then Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through to Councilor Peach. Councilor Peach, 8E, you didn't mention that, is it?
Peach?
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8E and item 8F. So moved.
Just 1 second. All right, you heard the motion from Councilor Peach. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you. So was 8E also part, was it your intention to include conditions from that as well?
Through you, Mr. President, to Councilor McGinn, the suggestions from the community development, the biggest one here is the oil separator. I've had discussions with the applicant and with Lucia from Conservation, and while it's something, if this was a new build, we would probably look for, but based on the operation that's been happening here and based on how the applicant has operated on Walnut Street, there's other conditions that Conservation has requested that would meet the same, we would get to the same place instead of forcing a $40,000 cost onto the applicant. So if you wanted to discuss any of the other conditions, I was happy to hear.
Yeah, I'm looking more at the third bullet about the proximity to the proposed Riverwalk, and if they were agreeable to the suggestion made here by Community Development.
Through you, Mr. President, I did discuss this with the applicant, and I did discuss it with Community Development. For those at home, the suggestion is this property does abut our future Riverwalk. It would be a suggestion to remove one of the driveway entrances and to seed that, which accounts for more, flood storage and reduces the heat island effects. I know that Community Development has had some talks with the applicant, and I spoke with Community Development. If in the works of developing the Riverwalk, that is a parcel of land, and if the applicant is amendable to it at that time, I would think that would be part of the project and not a cost I would impose on this applicant. Again, if this was a new build, that would be a different discussion, but there's no new construction happening here, so I'm not looking to impose that condition of this permit.
Councilor McGinn, you still have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I know there's an active project that Peabody has in conjunction with City of Salem to take our Riverwalk and continue it to connect with a project Salem is working on. And this particular corner is kind of a difficult jog in that proposed project. And I know the ideal situation would be to take it through here. So I guess, Mr. President, through you to the applicant, is that something you're aware of? Have you discussed this with Community Development at all? Is this meaningful to you, what I'm making reference to?
Mr. Boyd.
I have talked to one of the planners to let them have permission to come on to do some survey.
Yeah, Ron, take.
Did I break it? I was in touch with Community
Was it Brendan
Development.
Callahan? Was it Brendan Callahan in Community Development? Does the name Brendan Callahan,
Yep.
was he, that's the person?
Brendan,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not good with names, so if you had a motorcycle, I could tell you exactly what it was. Names I'm bad
That's quite
with.
all right. So.
I had spoke to him, and I had let him on the property after I had signed on the closing, and they had been down there doing some surveying, but as far as that goes, I was all set with that. I know there's going to be a river walk going along the property. I just don't know what's going on in depth.
Okay, so I guess it was left that any future easement or any, that's all a future activity? Is that, go ahead, and Councilor Peach.
Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, I did speak with Brendan Callahan, and this parcel, while that was the original thought, that would be the best way to connect the Riverwalk to the Salem project. If you look at the bridge, it's actually quite a sharp turn to get to that parcel of land anyway. So speaking with Brandon, he's not even sure that that parcel of land is in their sights anymore. So my talk with him was basically I would not condition it on this special permit, and if that's something the city wishes to pursue down the road, they can do that with the applicant.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor
Thank
McGinn.
you, Councilor Peach. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are there any responses from police or fire? Did we get anything? So the reason I ask is because in the prior special permit, item number 1, the applicant shall comply with necessary code requirements for fire alarm systems and flammable liquid storage permit shall be obtained as well as all applicable permits. Do we want to keep that?
Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Turco, that is included in the Conservation Commission's comments as well, so it will remain in the permit.
Okay, and I can't seem to find the Conservation Commission requirements, but, so I'll just ask you. The other one is the This is Andrew Levin's recommendation that the dumpsters, vehicles, containers, any sort of trash receptacles not be stored on the side of the property abutting the North River. Is that also in conservation, or is it something that you'd be willing to add?
Councilor Peach.
Through you, Mr. President, that is not in conservation. I can tell you what's in conservation. A condition of having spill containment kits on site, engine repair and oil changes using catchment vessels and absorption pads, the fire department requirements, no outdoor storage, no work allowed outside, building department should sign off, and no vehicle washing allowed outside per stormwater ordinance. The suggestion for the dumpster, I mean, we can ask the applicant if there's another place for them to store it, but it has been in the same place for decades, so.
I get that, but I think the purpose from the city planner was to prevent debris and trash. I'd be in support of the application as long as, you know, we adhere to the city planner's wishes, because I agree with it. I think that trash receptacles and dumpsters next to the river itself, we'd just be looking for issues, especially when we're trying to improve that area. But with that said, I do support the recommendation from the planner. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Any other councilors? Seeing none, Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the applicant. Ron, is there a location on your property that seems amendable that's not on the North River side? I know you said you put up a gate and a fence. Is the fence along the river? There's like is there something preventing where the dumpster is now? Is there a fence there, any sort of blockade?
There's a fence along the river, and for years, both companies, Allen's Auto and Peabody Glass, both have dumpsters in there. Allen's Auto Trim dumpster was along the river, which it's continuing to be right now, but that could be moved up towards the other end of the building. It just needs to have access for, you know, to have it removed. But I just did put it recently today. They finished putting the gate in along Harmony Grove Road. It's going to be all privacy fenced in and everything, so it's cleaning up.
Thank you. So with that, I will, Councilor Turco, condition that the trash receptacles are not along the North River side of the property.
Thank you, Councilor. Before we close the public hearing, did you want to read off all the conditions in case there's some questions that we can handle it while we're still open to the public?
Oh, sure.
Or did you want to, you could close the public hearing and just move forward if you'd like as well.
Yeah, no, if I can read off the conditions that I'll include. The conditions would be operating hours Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, Saturday, 8 to 4 with no Sunday hours. There will be no outside storage. There will be no snow storage on the North River side of the property. There will be spill containment kits on site at all times. Engine repair and oil changes should use catchment vessels and absorption pads as needed. All fluids should be stored per Peabody Fire Department requirements and stored on oil containment pads. No outdoor storage of material, oil drums, etc. No work is allowed outside. The building department should sign off on proposed use. No vehicle washing is allowed outside per local stormwater ordinance. And the dumpster or any trash receptacles may not be stored on the side of the property abutting the North River.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? Seeing none, Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to close the public hearing.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach to close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote, Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, move to approve the special permit for Ron Boyd at 2 Harvard Street, Peabody, Mass., requesting to operate an automotive repair service facility specializing in motorcycle repair and sales in a GBD zoning district at 27 Howley Street, Peabody, Mass. With the following conditions: operating hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, Saturday, 8 to 4, with no Sunday hours. The snow storage cannot be on the North River side of the property. There is no outside storage. The owner should have spill containment kits on site at all times. Engine repair and oil changes should use catchment vessels and absorption pads as needed. All fluids should be stored per Peabody Fire Department requirements and stored on oil containment pads. No outdoor storage of material, oil drums, etc. No work is allowed outside. The building department must sign off on the proposed use. No vehicle washing is allowed outside per local stormwater ordinance. And the dumpster or trash receptacles cannot be stored on the North River abutting property.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton. O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
All right, we're going to move on to item 4D for the Class 2 motor vehicle license for Mr. Boyd. Mr. Boyd, can you just, for item 4D, just give us a summary of what you're doing? Oh, I'm sorry, the clerk has to read the public notice. I apologize, I was trying to move you along.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, June 23rd, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from Ron Boyd, DBA Boyd Cycles, Inc., 27 Howley Street, Peabody, Mass., requesting use of a Class 2 motor vehicle license at said 27 Howley Street, Peabody, Mass. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under Calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd, just a summary of the Class 2 motor vehicle license.
I'm just looking to relocate the license from 25 Walnut Street to the new property at 29 Howley Street, carrying it over the same conditions that I've had.
Thank you. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? There's no one on Zoom. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be supporting this Class 2 motor vehicle license, and I'll open it up to my colleagues.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Any other councilors? Seeing none, Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to close the public hearing.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. This time I'd like to move to approve the application from Ron Boyd, DBA Boyd Cycles, Inc., 27 Howley Street, Peabody, Mass., requesting use of a Class 2 motor vehicle license at said 27 Howley Street. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight.
All right, we're going to move on to item 4E, a special permit for Charles E. Holden, 91 Linfield Street. The clerk will read the public notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, June 23rd, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from Charles E. Holden, 91 Linfield Street, Peabody, Mass., for a special permit requesting to remove the existing propane filling structure and replace the same with a new one-story structure at said 91 Linfield Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with sections 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under Calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Thank you. Would the applicant just state your name and address for the record and a summary of the application?
Good evening. My name is Charles Martins. I'm an attorney with an office at 10 Centennial Drive, Suite 105 in Peabody. I'm representing the applicant, Charles Holden. He regrets not being here, but I do believe he's on Zoom as we...
He is on Zoom, yep.
So the application is a continuation of what Mr. Holden and his family have done in the last, since 2014. And in particular, there's a dock shed on the rear left quadrant of this lot that's been there since the 1950s. Currently, it's only being used for propane cylinders, both filling and then purchasing. He is attempting to replace the existing structure that's been there since the 50s to a one-story building that will just be limited to office space and storage of certain equipment as an accessory to the ongoing business that's in the front side of the gas station and the convenience store, which was done in 2018. So this is the last step. The building will only be used by employees, and the storage will be primarily a bobcat or a tractor, again, to assist in the ongoing businesses on the front side.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor of the applicant? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in favor? Mr. Holden, do you want to have, Mr. Holden, did you want to?
Holden,
Yep, we got you.
on Zoom here. I can answer any questions that you may have, so.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Anybody else wish to speak in favor? Seeing none, anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to receive items 8F and late communication 7 as they pertain to the special permit request. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Welton. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had the opportunity to speak to the petitioner, and as his attorney has just articulated, this will be replacing a structure that currently exists with an updated structure. The late communication 7 that was received is actually from Conservation Commission. If my fellow councilors had an opportunity to go through the packet, they'll notice that Lucia's initial, the Conservation Commission Commissioner's initial feedback was that notice of intent had been filed for proposed work for the June 15th hearing. That hearing has since come and gone, and late 7 is confirmation from Lucia Del Negro that this matter has been received and brought forth to the Conservation Commission, and an order of conditions have been given to Holden Oil. So I spoke to her this afternoon. She didn't have any further comments or any hesitation there. So having had a chance to speak with the petitioner, having had a chance to hear the petitioner's attorney this evening, I fully intend to support the special permit request.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Any other councilors? Any other councilors? Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, please, to either Mr. Holden or the attorney. Chuck, are you not going to be continuing the sale of propane in the current structure?
So the propane service will be moved up front. He's already has the platform, and it's self-contained, and it'll be limited to replacing this propane tanks. So there won't be storage that exists there now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other councilors? Councilor Welton.
Yes, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as a follow-up, Councilor Gould, if you see the response to question J, I just want to highlight the response was, as historically used, small portable propane tanks will continue to be palletized and stored outdoors as required by fire department regulations, with regularly scheduled removals made to minimize any accumulation. So I just want to, and I can make that as a condition as well. for the special permit, but I just wanted to draw attention to that so that you are aware that there's not going to be propane stored within that new structure.
Thank you, Councilor Welton.
Any other councilors? My only comment is I wish you best of luck. I'm a customer, use it quite often, so it's a good thing. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to close public hearing.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move, move to approve the special permit application from Charles E. Holden, 91 Linfield Street, Peabody, Mass. for a special permit requesting to remove the existing propane filing structure and replace the same with a new one-story structure at said 91 Linfield Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, as filed in accordance with section 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance, with the additional conditions cited by Health Director Sharon Cameron, requesting that rodent control measures must be implemented at a minimum of 14 days prior to removal of existing structure, and also noting the response to question J as a special permit condition that small portable propane tanks will continue to be palletized and stored outdoors as required by fire department regulations. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Welton. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Peach,
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
O'Neill, McGinn,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Daigle,
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to be moving on to reports of committee. We had a report of committee. We did not have, we took care of the Finance Committee at the last special meeting, and Legal Affairs, Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Legal Affairs Committee met this evening. In attendance were committee members, Councilors McGinn, Peach, Rozignol, and Turco. We were also joined by all remaining members of the council. We had one agenda item, which was to review the council's approval for the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement for the property, which is located at 156R Bartholomew Street. The property is currently owned by the Downey family. The Downeys approached the city to see if there was any interest to purchase this parcel from them. The purpose of the city buying this land would be to create open space and would be recorded in the deed in such manner. Purchase price of the property is $40,000, which with an additional $15,000 allocated for closing costs. The funds for the purchase of this property have been approved by the Community Preservation Committee in November of 2021. And lastly, the City Council approved the $65,000 fund transfer from the CPC open space in December of 2021. Mayor Betancourt appeared before the committee and gave us a brief overview of the purchase. Once again, this is just to kind of button things up and allow the mayor to execute the purchase and sale agreement so the city can buy this piece of property. A motion was made by Councilor McGinn to authorize Mayor Betancourt to execute the purchase and sale agreement. The committee voted 5-0 in favor of this motion. I now bring this motion to the full council this evening. Move to authorize His Honor Mayor Betancourt to execute the purchase and sale agreement for property located at 156R Bartholomew Street. So moved.
Hear the motion from Councilor O'Neill. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Peach,
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Daigle,
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report of committee.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Moving on to motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Gould.
No motion, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Rozignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. No motions this evening.
Thank you, Councilor Rozignol. Councilor Manning Martin.
No motions, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Wish I could keep it going, but under suspension of the rules, move to receive item late 4 and refer to the committee of the whole for charter discussion.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive late 3. Do we vote on those tonight? Or,
No, we're not voting on those tonight.
okay,
So that would
just
be...
receive?
1 second. That would go to receive and refer to the Committee of the Whole for the charter review.
So moved, Mr. President.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions tonight. I just want to remind everyone that on July 4th, the Ward 3 celebration will be on Monday the 4th, starting at 9:30 at Conley Park, otherwise known as Carroll School area. We'll have games, music, prizes, hot dogs, ice cream from Treadwell's, and it's going to be a wonderful day, so I hope you can join us.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of rules, move to receive and approve all papers being in order. Item 9A, block party requests, so moved.
And that would be both block party requests?
Yeah, I'm happy to take both of those.
Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of rules, move to receive late communication 2 regarding Toscana Forno, a new application for entertainment license, and schedule a special permit hearing, public hearing, so moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Welton. All in favor? Any opposed? To the vote, Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also, as a point of information, I had the opportunity this week to meet with some residents around the Spring Pond area, and just want to remind residents in that area that that is a reservoir and swimming is not allowed over there. Particularly of note, this past week, there's been a number of swimming related deaths, drownings in various communities throughout the North Shore. So just want to remind people, I know it's a hot day, but you know, please stay out of the reservoir. Please do visit Brown's Pond and the local kayak dock that we have there and go fishing or do whatever, but not a safe area to go swimming. And then also on a more positive note, I would like to encourage everybody from Ward 1 and everyone from throughout the city of Peabody who wants to go to another ward party to attend our 4th of July party, which will be held at Radden Road. Also, Ward 1 residents can look forward to receiving their limited edition South Peabody Wear #1 t-shirts that morning as well. So thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive approval of the record for regular meeting minutes from June 9th, 2022. So moved.
Yeah, we did that at the beginning of the meeting, Councilor. Yeah.
All right, I didn't hear it, so that's why.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize.
We had a lot going on
We
at the
normally
beginning.
get it, but we moved to the veto, so I scratched that. Okay. Under suspension of rules, move to receive item 8B and refer that to the Committee on Aggregate Industries. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor O'Neill. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two, I guess, announcements. One, I did want to recognize Corey Jackson, who, for his leadership as Executive Director of Citizens Inn for the last 9 years, and his and his organization's considerable efforts to help people with food and nutrition for those in need. He's decided to retire at the end of the month, and I wish him well in his next endeavor. And lastly, following other ward councils, I want to let Ward 6 residents know that the annual picnic is going to be held this year, Sunday, July 3rd, starting at 9 o'clock. We'll have the same things as we had before. We will not be handing out South Peabody #1 t-shirts, but certainly, you know, we look forward to seeing all the residents there. 8:30 is the registration for the Patriotic Parade, but look forward to seeing everyone there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8C and set up a public hearing. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 10A and adopt as advertised. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. We're going to take a roll call on that. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
No.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill. McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
No.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-2.
Counselor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Especially the rules move to receive late communication 5 and refer to finance. So moved.
Heard the motion from Counselor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Counselor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Suspension of the rules move to receive late communication 6 and refer to finance. So moved.
You heard the motion from Counselor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Counselor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. And like all other wards, Ward 2 will be celebrating Independence Day on Independence Day, July 4th, 9 to noon, at the Wells School and O'Connor Park adjacent. We'll be doing some of our old favorite activities, a lot of fun things, food, fun, field games. There'll be T-shirts, Councilor Welton, but our T-shirts are going to be distributed into the audience in an unusual way with not a cannon, it's a slingshot, which I don't know what smacks of Independence Day more than a projectile off the side of the head, possibly, but if this works out, I'll be taking credit for it. If not, I will be blaming my son, Daniel. And some of the old favorite... Mr. President, can you help me out? How did Yankee Doodle come to town? How was that?
On a pony.
Riding on a pony, yes. We will have ponies, and just like Yankee Doodle, and so we're excited about that. Thank you for your support, Councilor Gamache.
Where have you been hiding,
What's that?
Councilor McGinn?
I don't know. Councilor Manning Martin, you'll remember this. Councilor Driscoll used to, kind of build up his event at Ward 4. You'll remember that, right? And he would refer to it, I'm going to tax your memory, as the greatest show on earth, kind of borrowing from Ringling Brothers. Does that ring a bell with you?
It does,
It
but I don't want
does.
to
It was the
interrupt.
greatest show on earth, but I
don't want to interrupt any further. You are on a roll, and I'm enjoying the show.
I think this gives politicians a bad name. They're embellishing like that. So I think what we're going to have is the greatest show in Peabody on the 4th of July before noon, okay? If that's reasonable. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor McGinn. Counselor Gamache.
Yes, on that matter, if you want the greatest show on earth, come up to Saitani Ross Park on Monday, and you'll enjoy the greatest show on earth, as well as the rest of the wards. I wish all the ward councilors good luck, and I hope that the weather is good, and it's an enjoyable day for all. So, under suspension of the rules, I'd like to receive late communication 1 and set up a special permit hearing. So moved.
You heard the motion from Counselor Gamache. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Counselor Gamache.
Yes. 8, under suspension rules, 8A, move to receive that application for a special permit and set that up. So moved.
You heard the motion from Counselor Gamache. Counselor Manning Martin.
Yes, through you to Councilor Gamache. Regarding that location, Councilor Gamache, 258 Newbury Street, and I'm sure, I believe these petitioners rent that space,
Yes.
but there's a billboard, an abandoned billboard there.
We're working on
That
it.
is awful.
Yeah.
And it needs to be taken down. It
Yeah,
needs to be removed. It's
and-
abandoned property.
Through the chair to Councilor Manning Martin, I spoke with that, with Councilor Turco as well, and I'm going to contact the owner of the facility, the owner of the building, and try to work with him to have that taken down.
Thank you. Is there another one on that side that, or is that the one?
There's-
Because it looks
that's-
different when you're going north to
That's
south.
the vacant one at 258 Newbury Street. There's another one that's further down towards 286 Newbury Street, but that's being utilized. And there's one across the street near the JRM site.
There's one that's very low, and I thought it looked like a metal weed and also
That's
abandoned.
258.
Like this one as well.
Yeah,
There's
that-
not another one that is over a mobile home?
There's one at 251 Newbury Street that is being used. There's also one further down on the Danvers Peabody line located at JRM Republic's yard. There's one there. There's one across the street at 286 Newbury, which is a smaller one as you head southbound. And then you got the 258 Newbury Street that we're trying to work on getting taken down. That's the only one that's not utilized.
And when you say work on taking it down, what do we need to do? It just needs to come down. It's an abandoned piece of property. Have we talked to the building commissioner? I would ask the city solicitor, but Too soon?
Councilors will, Councilor Gamache?
Yes, I have spoken with Councilor Turco. I will be contacting the owner. I know that it is leased through, not Clear Channel, but the other one that's quite common. It is a lease, but I will update the council further when this application moves forward.
Thank you very much, because you know I'll be on it.
Yeah, I know.
You know me and billboards.
I'm not a solicitor. I'll get back to you.
I know, because you're like communicating.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Gamache?
Yes, that is, and I'd also like to, under suspension of rules for petitions, presentation of petitions, memorials, and remonstrances, item 8B, move to receive that application, set up a public hearing.
9B, yes, we'll receive, and you heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor Gamache?
Yes, if I may, the last item I believe that we can look at tonight is the taxi cab driver's license. Move approval for Twilla Gale Contis, Howard Bent, and Shane Kiernan. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor
Thank you,
Gamache?
Mr. President.
Councilor Turco?
Thank you, Mr. President. My motion to have DPS install a stop line, this will be a co-motion with Councilor Welton, at the end of Martinac Ave, where the stop sign is, obviously a white stop line on the pavement. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Turco. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor Turco?
Thank you, Mr. President. Also a co-motion with Councilor Welton. Motion to have DPS remove all the broken pieces of asphalt berm from in front of 13 Crockmall Road. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Turco. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor Turco?
Thank you, Mr. President, and this is a request of our wonderful city clerk, if you could, and I will not ask you to do this in any other circumstance, but I have received several phone calls of concern from residents about whether we would have a repeat of last year where they did not receive their barrels or for their block parties. Remember, there was a communication issue with DPS, and they would like to ensure, so I'm asking you if you could resend a reminder for all the July 3rd block parties and July 4th block parties, and there are for quite a few, just in the event that it happens and I have nobody to reach on that day to help. As Councilor Welton and I were stealing barrels from random parks throughout Peabody last year. So, well, it's a request, that's all.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor, are you all set, Councilor? All set. Councilor Daigle?
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to my colleagues for taking care of everything on the agenda. I don't have any motions, but I will make a second announcement about the greatest show in town, the greatest show on earth in Ward 4 on the 4th of July, 9:30 to 12. We're going to open up with the Pledge of Allegiance and National Anthem, and then we are going to do a little parade followed by a check presentation to a student in the ward who will be receiving, her and her family will receive a check from Cops for Kids with Cancer, and then we'll proceed into the games and fun. We'll have over $100 in quarters in the sawdust pile, grab bags, limited edition t-shirts to volunteers and as prizes. And in honor of Bob Driscoll, we're bringing back we're calling it the Run in the 4 on the 4. There's a 1-mile road race down around Higgins, so you've got 10 days to train if you can make it. All are welcome. If you have nothing to do after Ward 6 party on Sunday, come on over to Ward 4. All are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Councilor Turco, will you take item 7A and set up and for the for the July 14th meeting, please?
Thank you. Move to receive item 7A and refer to the July 14th agenda. So moved.
You hear the motion from Councilor Turco. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. And then just a reminder, Tuesday, we'll be having our Charter Review Committee of the Whole to finish Article 3. The goal is to finish Article 3, along with just analyzing the responses from Attorney Barrett. And everybody should have the packet. If you have any questions on that, just let us know. With that being said, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
You hear the motion. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? We're adjourned.